Hello and welcome to the Week 7 Team Conti Sim Performance Class A NextGen Track Guide. My name is Michael Conti. I build the setups for Team Conti Sim Performance on the Cup side of things, and I'm going to take you through a 25 lap race run with the NextGen car at the fantastic Auto Club Speedway. So Auto Club is a really fun track because all of the lines work at different points in the run, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what your traffic looks like, at what point in the race you are. That will determine where you place your car. For the purposes of this run and just making lap time over 25 laps, we'll concentrate on running the bottom for the first 20, and then after 20 I'll start to move around and show a few of the different options you have in Auto Club Speedway. So long straightaways and long semi-flat sweeping corners. Not a whole lot of brake in play here, but there will be a little bit as we get deeper into the run and start to move our line around. Turn 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, although they look the same on the surface, they're quite a bit different in the way you attack them, and we'll go into more detail about that as we continue through the run here. Compared to Darlington and some previous tracks, the range with which we'll move the wheels, so your steering lock range is going to be a lot smaller rather. A lot of little finite movements, but not really cranking one way or the other if you're doing it right. As you can see here, our max wheel lock in 1 and 2 is probably at about 15 to 20 degrees. Call it 10:30 to 11 if you were looking at a clock, and it'll be similar at this end of the track as well. Heading down into turn 3, lifting pretty far into the entry phase. There's billboards on the outside of the track that alternate between the track name and NASCAR. You're going to lift just before the first NASCAR billboard, which is the second billboard overall. Heading down into turn 1, you're going to want to spot the caution light on the outside wall right there. Start your lift about a car length or so after that. Moderately quick lift off the throttle. Wide entry, as you can see. Start throttling up as you're still turning down the track and approaching the bottom. And heading down to turn 3, going to be full throttle, already turning off the wall, slow lift. Immediately back on the throttle, not a whole lot of free roll, especially on new tires in 3 and 4. Planting it wide open as early as possible without slipping the front or rear. Trying to keep the car as straight as possible, as always, with the NextGen. Down into turn 1, spot the caution light, off the throttle, wide entry, crossing over that first seam, and as we just about cross over the first seam, we start to give it partial throttle, quickly moving into almost full throttle, and then full throttle for pretty much the second half of the corner, tracking out to the wall and exit with a nice straight exit with lots of speed to carry down the backstretch. 3 and 4 is tricky because there's a compression point right there. You can't really see it too much on this particular lap because I hit it pretty well. But if you widen out your entry too much in 3 and 4 and you're turning down the track still as you cross that compression point, it will upset the rear of the car and possibly start to slip the right rear. So if that is happening to you, it's probably either an issue with your approach or depending on what setup you're running. Obviously, not everybody watching this at some point is going to be on our setup. So if you've got a setup that's super stiff, really rigid, it is not going to take that compression point well. So if you're still working on your setup, it might be a good idea to maybe soften it up a little bit, help it get over these bumps a little bit more. Very similar to Michigan in the way that this track is laid out, but very different in the sense that it's got less grip and it's very bumpy as well. So a lot of people draw parallels to the two tracks. They are similar in shape, but very different in the way you attack them, especially over the course of the run as the line moves around. With 1 and 2, even with running the bottom, you don't necessarily have to get all the way down to the white line. As you get down closer to that white line, the track does get a bit rougher. It's easy to snag that white line and almost touch that apron and slip the car. So don't necessarily care too much if we get all the way to the white line in 1 and 2, but definitely want to get well below that first seam. That's a good reference point if you're looking for one. Cutting the front stretch a bit on this run, not taking the apron, but definitely getting away from the wall and cutting the front a little bit. It's probably worth a couple hundredths or so. Going down the back stretch here, you'll notice that I track out next to the wall, and I pull it off the wall and start to straddle this first seam off the wall there. You know, you don't want to be too close to the walls down the straightaways with the way that the car interacts with the wall. The wall arrow can actually start to drag the car back a little bit, and it might cost you a mile an hour or so. Nothing too crazy, but definitely important on a qualifying run. And also, when you straddle that first seam off the wall down the backstretch, it's a little bit of a not so rough ride, and you can probably get down that straightaway a little bit quicker as well because of that. So if you've been paying close attention to the throttle trace on corner exit, you can see once we commit to the throttle, we really try to keep it there. If you're having to back out of the throttle or keep partial throttle for an extended period of time, you're going to cost yourself not only at corner exit, but all the way down the straightaways as well. And with Auto Club being a very momentum-based track, especially when you're in a pack and draft comes into play with other cars around you, it is critical. It is critical as anything to get down the straightaway as well. Not much fall off through the first 10 laps. You can pretty much mirror times through 10, and then you'll eventually start to fall off a bit as you notice the lap time pattern as we go deeper into this run. The majority of the fall off is going to happen after lap 10, between 10 and 25, and then from thereafter it'll continue to fall off. The tires are definitely wearing, but they're not necessarily getting hot, so without that heat component, you do have that slow fall off, but you don't have that initial burst of fall off that we see at some of the other higher load intermediate tracks that we visit throughout the year. So I'll cut out for a couple laps, let you all watch what's going on here, pay attention to that wheel, throttle, and brake in the bottom left-hand corner. Pay close attention to the angle of attack on corner entry and the way in which I'm tracking out to the wall and exit. And I'll come back in and around lap 15. Okay, so exiting turn 4 to come to the start of lap 15. if you're still with me here and still watching this video, you've probably noticed that the rear grip, especially on corner exit, is visually starting to fade away. A lot more opposite lock to counteract that rear slip that we've got going on here. I mean, you can really see that we are starting to lose some grip in the back. Still making some good lap time, only about a quarter second off of where we started the run, but definitely not quite as easy to maintain that lap time. So instead of committing to full throttle as soon as we were on fresh tires, probably have to back that up a little bit. Again, playing with the wheel a little bit more. Probably driving a little bit harder than I would during an actual race run in a live event. Really putting the rear tires through a lot of stress right now that I wouldn't do if I didn't have to in a race. And that's where it's that intangible understanding of when to push and when not to. And it all comes down to the feel that you've got. The feel that you've got with the car, with the feedback you're getting from the wheel and the pedals, and making good informed decisions. And I think that's where the majority of the member base struggles. You know, these videos, my videos, others' videos, pieces of software where you can compare times, they're all very helpful. But if you don't have that feel, that connection with what the car is doing, it's often hard to replicate it and have those same results on track. And how do you get that feel? It just comes with time. It comes with time. It comes with time and dialing your settings in a little bit. A lot of guys spend quite a bit of time on settings. Personally, I find something that works for me when I get new equipment, which is not very often, and find something that works and then stick with it. But without going on too much of a tangent here, you know, a lot of what's going on in this video and others that I do, it's a lot that I really probably can't put into words or wouldn't even think to put into words. You might watch this and say, wow, I can't believe he's moving the wheels so much, or wow, I can't believe he's doing this or that with the pedals, but for me it's second nature. So I encourage anybody who watches these to reach out to me personally. We've got our Discord link in the description, and I'm a pretty easy guy to find. I can't hide. So if you've ever got any questions on these videos, please feel free to reach out. Or for my my pass holders that are watching this before the week starts, you know where to find me on Discord, obviously. So same goes to you all. But with all that talking being done now, getting back to what's going on tracks, we're down to 40.2s. We'll continue to fall into the 3s and 4s as we approach lap 20. Like I said, the first 20 of this run, I'll keep it on the bottom, and then 21 on, we'll start to move around, and I can start to go into more detail on what's going on with the different lines and how to adjust the approaches to run those effectively. Definitely struggling for grip on exit of 2 here. Not bad. I mean, still full throttle for a significant portion of the corner, but definitely really having to work that wheel to keep the right rear in check. About the same lift points as we started the run with, maybe just a little bit quicker lift and a little bit slower back to throttle, but not much has changed in the technique to run the bottom. We'll take lap 20 here. I'll cut out for 20 and then come back in for 21 when I start to move the line around and explore around this large auto club speedway. Big slide off turn 4, a little bit too aggressive on the throttle there. So a mistake on my part, but caught it, and 40.42 on lap 20. Okay, so now we're going to start moving around lines. And I won't necessarily go faster here on this run when I move around, but don't really get caught up in the lap times. Let's just focus on what's happening and how the technique changes. So automatically, way different entry approach because we're so close to the wall, so probably backing out at a little different spot and then really trying to plant that throttle ASAP to extend the straightaway. This is kind of your one lane off the bottom line in 3 and 4, and as you can see there by that opposite lock, it didn't really work well. And that's all a part of searching around. Not every line that you try is going to work. Sometimes it won't work one lap, but as the track represents, it will work in 10 laps. So don't get discouraged and continue to search. Still maintaining high here into 1, quickly off the throttle with just a touch of brake, staying above that top seam or just hooking it with the left sides. giving that wall a little bit of space so we don't get collected into it. But big time commitment on throttle, center off. We get a good run off the corner, carry a bunch of speed down the back. Running the top into 3, entering a little bit below that seam and crossing over it, all the while keeping the left sides on it, center off to help us rotate. Get a good nice run off and forward down the front stretch. Change it up again a little bit into turn 1 here. Where do we go this time? Really wide entry, not trying to get to the bottom, but trying to aim for the first seam and getting a nice straight shot up off the corner. That line is really effective. Later in the race, when the top gets rubbered in and slick, 1 lane off the bottom might be really good. A little bit of a later entry into 3 versus just simply running the bottom. Also tried to keep it down lower a little bit longer, and wasn't necessarily a great line, but we'll see what the lap time says on this one compared to the last lap. 40.56, so about a tenth better versus top on both ends. Back to the top into 1. Really playing with that throttle, trying to commit to 100%. That right rear just close enough to the wall to use the benefits of the wall arrow to shoot you around the corner. Down the back stretch, giving the wall a breather. Into 3, not going to run the top, not going to run the middle, not necessarily going to run the bottom, kind of somewhere in between the first and second groove right there, a little bit off the white line. And coming around to take the final lap of the run, working lap 25. Where do we go this time? We're going to go back to the bottom. We really have to shave off a lot more speed to run that bottom, to be able to make the entry down the track, hit the bottom, trying to carry as much speed as we do up top. We'll just shove the nose, won't be able to do it. Got to slow it down more to run the bottom. And into 3, looks like the conventional line again. Nice straight shot off the corner, definitely in check nicely. Pull it all the way down to the grass, and we'll come across the line. It was a 63 last lap and a 64 this lap. So running all over the track there the last 5 laps, anywhere between a 56 and a 65, but really good flexibility with what you do to make lap time around here. So that is our Week 7 Team Conti Sim Performance Lap Guide for the NextGen Cup car at the Auto Club Speedway. Great track, really racy, lots of lanes, lots of opportunity. We are happy to help in whatever way possible, and we hope that these videos find you all well. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.